Outdoors. Just driving through the management area. It's been cold, haven't saw a deer. It's kind of gonna had something on my mind about these historical spots, you know. People's talking about it, old rubs, old sign, and even dates, pinning it down to 2 years ago. You got a picture on this date. Well, it's not 100%. Well, nothing's 100%, but that's for sure not 100%. Like, I had a spot on National Forest I called Tornado Ridge. I killed 2 bucks there 1 year around December the 10th. Went back around that same week a year later and killed another one. And I've went to that spot ever since. I mean, that's 5 or 6 years ago, and I've hunted it every year since and have yet to see another deer. So what I think it is maybe in some big woods where nothing changes. And that's a can of worms too, where nothing changes. But say you're hunting a spot and it's a good spot. Well, it may be based on food, it may be based on a thicket. And that's what I was going to talk about. Tornado Ridge, it was real thick when I found it. You know, the tornado damage was a couple years old, and the deer was really holding in there because of the thickness of the thicket. Well, as years go by, it grows up and it's not thick anymore, and the deer are literally just not there anymore. They was there because of that thick stuff, browse, covered. Once that matures and it's not thick, no more deer. And same way if you're hunting on, you know, you're basing your hunting strategies on cutover and you know, a thick spot. You know, a lot of times these management areas, be an old green plot way back in the back, they quit planting for whatever reason, and it grows up. Well, you're going to have 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years. That's a hot spot. Deer really bed in it and browse in it, and it's going to hold deer. But then as that matures, same thing as Tornado Ridge, as that matures and it's just little saplings that is useless to a deer, they're not there. So you can't say, you know, just because it's got some old rubs or it was good 2 years ago or good 5 years ago, it's good now. I've not run into that myself. Now, I guess you was in a big wood situation, a bluff gap situation where, I mean, deer's just going to travel a certain way year after year, long range travel. Yeah, a spot could be good year after year. But if you're based on hunting, your hunting's based on thick stuff, cutovers, pine thickets, even, you know, these pines mature and quit holding deer. So I think a cutover, when it's around that 3 to 6 year old cutover, that's when it's in its prime. I feel like that's when it's going to hold the most deer. That's when I've killed my bucks, is when it's in that age class, to 3 year old cut to 6. And then after that, your spot may dwindle down to nothing. So just keep that in mind. Something I've running into it now. I went this morning to an old historical spot, actually where I killed my second biggest buck. It was a 8-point, scored 128. I went to where I killed him about 3 years ago in a bluff bluff gap, and it's got cutover all around it. Well, that cutover is changed. It's not thick, and I didn't even see the honeysuckles that used to be there. It's more just pine and briars now, and sage grass. Little deer sign, nothing like it was when I killed that buck. When I killed that buck in there, it was, you know, just trails, doo-doo, rubs, it's all kind of deer sign, you know. I just come out of there this morning and very little deer sign. I put a camera on, a mobile camera on that bluff gap. I'm gonna monitor it, but I'd about be willing to bet it's not gonna be good. And at one time, that was the best spot you could be in. So it changes. You have to get out there and scout. And, you know, like I said, if you're basing on thickets, them thickets mature, and deer quit using them, and they'll move to the next age class thick spot that they like. So just keep that in mind. Don't get hung up on historical spots and all that. This is Freedom Hills. If you've never hunted here and wondering maybe what it looks like, it's a lot of pines, a lot of cutover. There is some hardwoods in the bottoms. It's a good mix. I don't know, I can throw a number out there, maybe like 75% or 70%, you know, cut over and pines, kind of what you're seeing on this footage. There is some hardwoods. It's big creek bottoms. I killed my first buck down here on a creek bottom, creek crossing sort of. And that's another, I saw the biggest buck of my life there. The next year I hunted it again and saw, man, it was covered up in bucks. I've went in there every year since, hunted it, scouted it, hung cameras, nothing. That thicket that was down in the bottom, so our timber company just sort of a corner of a cut come right in there to that creek bottom. And that little thicket right down in the creek bottom, man, they loved it. Now that thicket, you can walk right through it. It's not even holding any deer, no deer sign. So, you know, within a time frame there, 3 seasons, 4 seasons, that all changed. So don't get hung up on your old spot. It was good years ago. Well, you might go in there and kill a big one, but you may sit there day in and day out. I would say if there's not some sort of sign, it don't have to necessarily be the best looking sign you ever saw. If there's not any fresh sign of any kind, maybe time to move on. That's what I'm doing. Since I've come down, I'm going to a new area. It's got some of that prime age cut over. I looked at it one afternoon, and it's probably 3-year-old cut over, and it has a lot of honeysuckles, which is, you know, late season food. And that's sort of what I'm keying in on. Some of these cutovers is just grass, sage grass, and pines. I mean, it's not even holding any deer. Just a little cover, but no food. I like the cutover that's got food mixed in. Browse that they like plus cover is where it seems like I find it's holding more deer. It may not be holding the deer I'm looking for, but it's holding more deer. Alright guys, another video coming soon. I'm going to talk about some merino wool base layers and see what kind of base layers y'all like. How do you stay warm in Alabama in 20-degree weather with a heat index of about 16 with that wind blowing. So I want to know how y'all stay warm. I'm making it pretty good, and we'll talk about that soon. Over and out.